Hi, you guys. Hope you're doing well. This is Miss Visha Hussain for F9. Now, F9 relates to financial management. And in this paper, we have to go through 3 decision-making criteria. And that is what your whole F9 syllabus is going to revolve around. First is the investing decision. Investing decision means that what amount are you going to invest? How much should you invest? In what projects should you invest? So you're going to basically be checking the projects as well. Other than that comes the financing decision. Where will you get the source of finance from to invest money? What are the other sources of finance that you can go for? And third is the dividend decision. Dividend decision relates to basically what is dividend? Dividend is the share of profit that you give to the shareholders. So how much dividend should we give to the shareholders? All of that is going to be discussed in financial management. This is a very short summary of whatever we are going to be discussing during the whole syllabus. Now, 6 core areas and 3 non-core areas. This is how I have divided the syllabus. 6 core areas includes most of the calculation areas, and this is going to make up around 70 to 80% of your paper. 3 non-core areas, when you hear it yourself, you would understand that this probably means that these are a bit lesser important. But this is not like I am telling you to do selective study. No, we have to cover up all the syllabus in great detail. We're not going to do any selective study because our paper pattern is such that we can't go for selective studies. So the 6 core areas includes capital investment appraisal, which we are going to discuss right now in a bit. Weighted average cost of capital, sources of finance, risk management, business valuation, and dividend policy, working capital management. 3 non-core areas includes macro and microeconomics, objectives of financial management, and Islamic finance. Now, these 6 core areas, I've already told you, these are mostly based on calculations. They do have theory. We're going to cover up theory and calculations both. And 3 non-core areas are simply based on theory. So we are going to cover that as well. Paper pattern includes, the paper is basically divided amongst 3 sections. Section A is MCQs, 15 MCQs, 2 marks each, that equals to 30 marks. Section B is based on 3 MTQs, 10 marks each, that equals to 30 marks again. And section C equals 2 long questions, 20 marks each, that equals to 40 marks in total. So the whole paper is going to be of 100 marks. Now you might be thinking that what is going to be my approach in this scenario. So my approach regarding the papers that I teach is that we first discuss all the concepts, then we move towards smaller examples. Once I know that the student is comfortable with the smaller examples, then we move towards longer examples, and then we move towards past paper questions. Now, in past paper questions, when we are going to do past paper questions, you'll see that most of the kit questions are also covered up in the past paper questions only. However, there are going to be some kit questions that won't be covered up. So that will be left out for you to do on your own. But that does not mean that you can't contact me just in case if you're facing any issues. You can contact me. You'll get the number from the admin if you plan on joining the classes, and you'll be in contact with me throughout. So even later on, once you are done with the syllabus with me and you perform kit questions, you can easily contact me. There's no issue in that. The main reason why we take such approach that we first do shorter examples and longer examples and then past papers is that I want to build your confidence so that later on when you do the kit questions on your own, you have enough confidence, you know how to tackle the questions on your own. Okay. Any questions so far? If yes, please ask me now. Then I'm going to move towards discussing the topic. I believe there are no questions. So I'm going to move towards the basic concept. Not exactly the basic concept, the first concept that we discuss in F9. That is capital investment appraisal. Now, capital investment appraisal is a concept that is coming from F3. The name is not the same, but if you recall your studies of financial accounting, you would have seen that there was capital expenditure and there was revenue expenditure. Capital expenditure was that amount of expenditure which you considered to be um, comparatively of a bigger amount than revenue expenditure. And the results of capital expenditure were also for longer term than revenue expenditure, which means the returns that the capital expenditure was giving you was for a longer term. For example, if you're buying a car, this is capital expenditure. Why? Because that car is going to be with you for a longer time period, which means more than a year. But if you're getting the maintenance done of that car, that is revenue expenditure. Why? Because the results of that maintenance is going to be, let's say, for 3 months, maximum 6 months, maximum 9 months, but not for more than a year. You have to get the service done of the car every now and then, right? And the expenditure is also proportionally smaller than the amount for which you've bought the car, right? Now, from capital expenditure, this capital investment appraisal concept has come in. Capital investment is any investment which you do for a long time period and from which you get returns from a long time period as well. Now, the main concept behind capital expenditure or capital investment appraisal is of time value of money. Time value of money says that if you have $100 today, it is not going to be equal to $100 in a year's time. What do they mean? Are they saying it literally? No, they're not saying it literally. Literally, the note is the same. The note that you have in your hand of $100 is the same. There's no change in it. But the value of that $100 is no more the same. How is that so? Let's take an example. Let's say if you were to buy a meal from McDonald's today, that meal would cost you a lot more than what it costed you when you were a kid. Back then, when you were, let's say, a teenager, when you used to buy McDonald's meal, that would have cost you way lesser. And today's time, it would cost you way more. Why? Has the meal changed? No. Has the quality changed? No. Then why? Because of inflation. The main concept behind time value of money is inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the increase in the general price level in an economy. With time, the prices keep on increasing, but your salary does not increase with that same rate. And since your salary does not increase with that same rate, but the prices keep on increasing, your money loses the time value. Basically, your money is losing its value with time, right? Are we clear about the inflation concept? Any queries so far, you guys? It would be great if you could give me a Thumbs up if you've understood it. Okay, I'm assuming that you guys understand it, and I'm moving on. The second concept is of potential for earning interest. Let's say if you have $100 today and you were saving this amount for something that you wanted to do, and your friend comes in and says that I want this money as soon as possible. I need to spend it on something that is very important to me. So I need to take it as a loan. Can you please lend it to me? And you're like, fine, I'm going to lend it to you. But in a year's time, when you return this money, do pay me with interest. And he's like, no, I'm not going to pay you with interest. I'm going to pay you the principal amount. Now when he says, I'm not going to pay you with interest, you're automatically going to say that, no, I'm not going to give you this money then. Why? Because after a year's time, whatever thing that you were saving this money for is going to cost you more. Let's say if today it costed you $100, probably in a year's time it is going to cost you $110. Then where are you going to get this $10 from? He should pay you that $10 as an interest amount to make up for the loss that you're facing, right? This is one of the reasons behind time value of money as well. And third thing, when it comes to risk, if let's say you have $100 and you want to invest this money, so you're going to invest it in something that gives you high returns if you're willing to take high risk, right? If you're not willing to take high risk, then you'll have to be okay with getting low returns, because often when you move towards investing, the party where which you are investing the amount says that we are going to invest your money, that is fine. We are going to allow you to invest this money, that is also fine. But you need to be okay with taking risks. If you are if you're willing to take high risk, then you're going to get high return. If you're willing to take low risk, then you're going to get low returns. So this is another reason behind time value of money. Now there are two kinds of interest. What is interest? First of all, interest is the amount of money which a person gets over time on the principal amount which he has lent to somebody else. So there are two kinds of interest. One is simple interest. The second one is compound interest. Simple interest pays you the same amount of interest every year on the principal amount. However, compound interest accumulates the interest that is received yearly on the compounded amount. If you see over here on the left side, investment is $1,000 only. Guys, I'm muting your mic so that there is no disturbance. If you have any queries, you can ask me by opening up the mic. Investment is $1,000, interest is 10%. For simple interest, every year you're going to multiply 10% into $1,000 to get $100, $100, $100. By the end of the period, you will be receiving 1,000, which is your principal amount, plus $300 of interest. So it is going to be $1,300 in total that you'll be receiving by the person who has lent, who has to pay you the interest and the principal amount. About compound interest, the investment is the same, $1,000, interest is 10% only. In the first year, you're going to multiply 10% into $1,000. That is fine. You're going to get the interest amount of $100 only. But in the second year, you're going to add this $100 of year one to the principal amount that was $1,000. So the total amount becomes 1,100. If you see over here, This is going to be 1100. You multiply it by 10%. So you'll get 110 in year 2. Then this $110, you're going to add it to 1100 and then multiply it by 10% to get $121 for year 3's interest amount. So by the end of year 3, the total amount, including the principal amount, is 1331 that you're getting. Are we clear? Is there any query that you're facing or any questions in general that you want to ask? If yes,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What is the significance or the implication between the two figures? That is 1,300 and 1,331.
I did not understand the last part that you were asking. I do understand that you asked me about the significance and all.
Yes.
What else did you ask?
Yeah, the significance between the two figures.
Okay. The main idea behind simple interest is that it is going to charge the same rate at the same amount every year. The compounded interest is changing the amount every year, but the rate is the same. If you see, the amount is changing. First, in the first year, we are just computing it on principal amount. In the second year, we are computing on the principal plus first year's interest amount. This is the compound interest is a concept that is being used right now in the commercial banking mostly.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Do you guys have any other queries? If no, I'm going to stop right here, which is why I'm asking. All right, then I'm going to stop right here. You guys given your feedback to the admin, and then we're going to continue if you guys join. Take care and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.